Welcome to the Arsenal Americast, the new exclusive interactive show just for Arsenal America members, featuring very special guests from the realm of Arsenal and global football, behind-the-scenes insight, and real opportunities for you, the American Arsenal supporter, to chat with and get closer than ever to our football heroes and icons. And now, it's time to show the passion of Gooners across the United States. Tonight's special guest is the one, the only, football poet, Peter Drury. Hello, everybody. My name is Mike. I'm from Arsenal America, and I'd like to welcome you to a brand new Arsenal America production. This is the first episode in an ongoing series of monthly conversations with the people we know and love, the folks we watch, we listen to, we read, and who create so many of the memories and the excitement of being a fan of Arsenal Football Club and the sport in general. This won't be your traditional podcast. It is a special guest-driven conversation where you, the Arsenal America member, can not only watch and listen to amazing guests speaking exclusively to Arsenal America, but also be a participant live on air, if you'd like, with our guests, for those who want the chance for a quick chat, comment, or ask a question directly to them. It's an opportunity for all of us, from Miami to Seattle, from Maine to San Diego, and everywhere in between, to get much closer and more connected to North London, to Arsenal's past and present, to England, to the Premier League, and to the special people who we welcome into our homes and pubs every week. So we appreciate you tuning in now. We hope you'll continue to make these shows a part of your monthly routine and enjoy one of the many new benefits that we at Arsenal America are rolling out this season and next. So without further ado, I am very pleased to introduce our very first guest. It was always going to be you, Peter. He's a man who represents the pinnacle of the drama, the authenticity, the experience of watching the Premier League on TV from anywhere in the world, the one and only GOAT of football commentators, and a really, really nice gentleman to boot. Welcome to the Arsenal Americast, to NBC and Sky Sports lead football commentator, Peter Drury.
Hello, Mike. How lovely to be with you. What a privilege to be on your launch show. It's a really kind invitation, and thank you for having me on.
Well, the privilege is all ours, and believe me, everywhere I go, every pub I watch Arsenal at, when I speak to people, it's always about how much they adore what you add to the experience. And so, I thought no better of a first guest to have than I would say maiden guest to have for this show. So, how is the season going so far for you? We're about almost halfway through at this point.
You mean from an overall perspective as opposed to through Arsenal eyes?
Just for you. I mean, are we
me,
enjoying the season so far?
I think it's a really interesting season, actually. It's a really interesting season because of its ebbs and flows. Because at the moment, Arsenal are top of the league. And if that were to continue, we would have a third different champion in 3 years. And that's great for those of us who are watching the Premier League neutrally, because we have had this season Liverpool winning their first 5 games and everybody saying, oh, it's going to be dull. Liverpool are running away with this. And it just goes to show how much hot air is spoken by those of us who repeat, who repeat the narrative, because that was the narrative. And then not that long ago, oh my goodness, Arsenal are running away with it. This is great. It's interesting because it's Arsenal, and have they got the nerve to see it through? And then Arsenal lose a football match to a team called Aston Villa. And Aston Villa, who, by the way, didn't score a goal in their first 4 games this season, and were a team that had reached the top of its potential mountain last year, had been in the Champions League, done very well. Well done, Villa. Your time has come and gone. And now all of a sudden, do you know what? Aston Villa just might be good enough to go all the way here. They're in the title race.
I did not see them creeping up on us. I was kind of enjoying the fact that they were way, way down in the table and out of nowhere. Like, I wouldn't want to be playing them right now. I didn't want to play them last week.
They're coached by a bloke called Emery, who you might recall. But he
I thought that they had that, what was the guy's name in 95 in between the two other coaches? You know, Unai Emery's he's a good coach and he's in the right place. That's
sure. No, absolutely, he's doing very well. But I would say this, and I'm not just saying it because I'm speaking to you as an Arsenal-centric podcast, but the fact that Arsenal are leading the narrative is compelling. It's compelling because whether you support them or you don't support them, you know, their narrative at the moment is fascinating. Arsenal's narrative is fascinating because they've finished second 3 times in a row. Now they are top. And yeah, they do suddenly, sadly for you, seem to suddenly have a lot of injuries. But the question is around whether they're capable of sustaining it, not just physically, but mentally, given what has gone before. And I just think this is becoming a really fascinating story to tell.
Well, I frankly hope it ends up being boring for you, but I do know that you do like a story and a dramatic ending. And I don't know that we have it in us for a 4th straight year, but I just wanted to recognize that, you know, among a variety of professional recognitions and awards that you've garnered over the years, I believe a congratulations in order because within the past couple of weeks, am I correct that you have once again won the 2025 Football Supporters Association Commentator of the Year award? Is that?
Yeah, I did, Mike. That's really kind of you. Thank you. It's a lovely evening that actually, because it is around supporters. There's a lovely, you've used the word already this evening, there's a lovely authenticity about it actually. And it's supporters, yes, of Arsenal, but also Accrington Stanley and Hartlepool and the small teams. And they're all in the same room.
Accrington Stanley, who are they?
Who are they? Exactly. So it was, I ended up having a great conversation with some fans of Barrow in League Two, a tiny little club that some people will have heard of, others won't, up in Cumbria in the far northwest of England. And we had some great conversations, and there are a lot of lovely people in there who remind you that beyond the very biggest clubs like Arsenal, and including, of course, the very biggest clubs, football clubs matter so much to people, you know, really matter. And the well-run ones who understand their supporters are so important.
Well, and it must be a privilege to be recognized like that. I think it might be the 5th or 6th year in a row. I mean, in 2019, you broke up Martin Tyler's 6-year hold on the award, and it doesn't look like you're planning on giving it back anytime soon. Is the friendship over? I mean, are you guys done?
Well, with Martin and I remain friends, I can assure you. But I also think these things tend to be finite, Mike, and every time I go along and I prepare that kind of fixed grin for when somebody else has won. And I'm sure it won't be long.
Well, I can hope your rise in that award and finally getting over the hump and keeping it is analogous to what Arsenal are about to, you know. Well, I hope we're 2019 Peter Drury right now. I can just feel it as far as that is concerned. So, of course, you know, we here in the States are familiar with your body of work, not just, you know, if not just from your stretch with NBC, but going back many, many years, European tournaments, World Cups, ITV, BT Sport, all of these. But I wanted to ask about your very first commentary roles and the ones you did before it was football, before accounting career, the incredibly dramatic commentary of your father picking up the daily newsletter or newspaper.
Yeah.
Is that where it all started?
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to be so pretentious as to assume that when I was doing that as a 7-year-old, I was really thinking that one day I'd do it for a living. But yeah, I did as a small boy. I used to stand at my bedroom window, and we lived opposite a public park. And every morning, my dad used to go out and walk up the hill through the park to go to the paper shop on the corner. He bought his newspaper, turned around, came the other way, and I had a clear view of him coming back down the hill towards our house. And I in my head, and sometimes out loud, I used to commentate as if it was, I suppose, the 400 meters at the Olympic Games. And he was coming back towards the the gate in front of our front door. And as he crossed, I'm sure, I guess people of our generation would remember the great British sort of middle distance runners of that sort of era. We had Steve Ovett and Sebastian Coe and all that, who were great British runners.
And when you could watch like a mile run on television on Wide World of Sports here in the States. I remember all those guys.
Yeah. And I used to, as he crossed the threshold, I used to go, and it's Drury first, Co second, Cram third, and that was him coming back with his copy of the Times.
By the way, I just want to quickly say, Facebook is a bit wonky when it comes to multiple streams. So if you have if you've tried to watch this on Facebook and for some reason it's not streaming, then you won't hear me say this. But if you know of anyone who's watching on Facebook, if I don't know whether it's working properly or not, but please do share the YouTube link with them so that they can hop on as well. And you can see that link in the chat here. So, your father also had an influence in the sense that, you know, he was pretty used to public speaking as a vicar, I believe, or a priest in the church.
Yeah, no, he was a Church of England vicar, and he was a very, very good public speaker. I mean, what he did and what I do are two pretty different things. And he was a very earnest academic Christian, I guess. You know, he was learned. He read the New Testament in the original Greek and all that sort of thing. So he was a very, very bright man by comparison with someone like me who just shouts footballers' names.
I think there's more similarities to what he did and you did what you do than you will readily admit. I mean, they're two different religious experiences.
Yeah, some would say so, Mike.
And you are, you know, influencing how people feel about what they're experiencing. So don't write off what you're. I mean, you know, it is different, but
I do take your point. But no, I mean, and he did speak very well publicly, actually, very well. But he was a teacher, really, and a teacher of adults. You know, he was as I say, a very academic guy. And in that respect, I probably fell slightly short. Well, I fell a long way short of him. But there you are. He didn't mind that I loved sports as well, so that was all good.
Well, Seth from Indianapolis would gladly attend a Christmas Eve service if you were the guest host of the evening, I guess. And given the little that I know about church, I don't know if there's a guest host in the church, but so I was thinking about, you know, asking you for kind of your Mount Rushmore top three of, you know, commentary moments, but I do know that you're a very humble man, and not humble because Erling Haaland has told you to be humble. But I won't force you to do that. But I do want to kind of recognize because believe it or not, there might be a few people who are watching this that, you know, that don't have the entire encyclopedia of Peter Drury's top moments in their head. So just tell me whether you would kind of put these up there. But obviously, you've got to go, you know, with the World Cup, Shabalala.
Goal
for Bafana, goal for South Africa, goal for all Africa. It's beautiful.
Well, that was a very happy evening in my life. And I'll come back to it. I'm not avoiding the question, Mike, but isn't it funny that Mexico, South Africa is the opening game of this next World Cup in the US?
I didn't even put that together. The host has switched this time.
Yeah, and that was the opening game of the South African World Cup. So that was a remarkable. I mean, it made me smile when the draw came out last week, and that's the opening game. It's a remarkable coincidence that is. But I remember that game principally.
Maybe it's not a coincidence given the people who were running the draw.
You can say that. I couldn't possibly comment.
Yeah, well, no, of course not.
The beautiful thing about that evening in Johannesburg was the incredible sense of joy, and South Africa still is, but then was a country with massive issues. Apartheid wasn't that far behind it, and walking up to that stadium that day, the sense of pride in nation amongst black and white South Africans all together as they walked into the stadium was so palpable. It was almost tangible. You know, it was a real, if sport and the world could bottle the sense of joy and purpose around that one football match, and come to understand what it means and what sport, when it's doing its thing properly and well, can bring to the world, what a better world it would be. It was gorgeous. And when this little boy who lived in a very humble house in Soweto belted the goal of his dreams, there was no more beautiful narrative than that. And so God bless him. And it was
I remember exactly where I was when I watched it. It was in a very unusual place for me. I was on the treadmill at a gym, watching on the TVs overhead. But and I'm like, this moment will never happen again, so I might as well just stop going to the gym. But no, it was beautiful. And you know, another one that's a bit more painful for me, I'm thinking, you know, Aguero. Now, we in the States heard Martin's call for Aguero, but you did the world feed that day, and you know, equally as dramatic, because other than the real one in 1989, I can't think of a more dramatic end to a league, which by the way, is a picture of.
It's we all wish we could have said it's up for grabs now, but you know, that one's gone now. Nobody can ever say that again, because those words only belong to Brian Moore.
That's what was written by Michael Thomas. It's up for grabs now, but yeah, that's the call. I mean, I know you won't be offended if I say that's the greatest call of all time. Of course. You have numbers 2 through 15, though.
No. That was brilliant. It was brilliant. And of course, I work every week with your friend of mine, Lee Dixon. And Lee is always proud, because essentially, if you look that goal up on YouTube, the clip begins with a pass from Lee Dixon. His is the first name that Brian Moore mentions in the sequence leading up to that goal.
And he did not want Lukic to pass it to him either. He was dreading that. He's told us that he was just convinced he was going to shank it out off the touchline, and we'd all be talking here about, you know, 25 years without a trophy.
Exactly. And I love the fact he says that, because it plays into his modesty, but also the humanity of the moment. And that's what makes great sports people great. Because most of us wouldn't want the ball then, would we? We'd think, oh, not me. I can only foul this up.
After the fact, they would say, of course I wanted the ball.
Of course I wanted it. Exactly. Correct.
I knew exactly where I was going with that. But and we'll get back to Lee in just a second, because we've got some great questions from our chat and from folks who submitted them ahead of time. Roma has risen from their ruins. Manolis, the Greek god in Rome. I mean, that was amazing. Thierry Henry's goal to beat Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. This was the first time that we won at the Bernabeu. Now it's just becoming kind of a regular occurrence.
It's a bit boring now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, let's get a draw against Barcelona and exercise those demons. But but yeah, I mean, Madrid. But my favorite,
what does the kids say?
My favorite one, and it's a little less highlighted on all of the, you know, the top Drury moments on the websites that you never visit, is October 9th, 2022, Arsenal versus Liverpool. 2-2, Bukayo Saka steps up for his most pressure-filled penalty. Not his first one, but the most pressure-filled penalty since that fateful Euro final about a year earlier. And, you know, a solid minute of walking up us Gooners, you know, just complete sickening level of nerves and hope and worry, and he slots it. And your call after that was just amazing. And it was the first call that I'd ever seen our friend from Nigeria, the Young Noble commentary, ever lip sync for you. That was the one. But I mean, such poise, such noise. I get shivers even now just thinking about it.
He is a remarkable guy, Saka. He is, and that was the kind of epitome of his remarkableness, in a sense, because, Mike, as you rightly say, it was so adjacent to his horrendous moment for England in the summer, and all of that outrageous abuse he took after it, for having the courage to step up and take that. I mean, it almost brings tears to my eyes. It's just, what do we do to our sports people, our young, brilliant sports
I can tell you.
Yeah, and that he was able, that he had the fiber to cast that off and walk up in this climactic moment of a massive game in front of the whole world for Arsenal against Liverpool and just tuck that penalty away as if he was playing with his mates after school. I mean, that is remarkable. And he's got, I mean, apart from being a beautiful footballer, he's got a beautiful smile. You know, anyone who's got a daughter would want her to bring home Bukayo Saka, because he seems to me like as decent a young man as exists. And you know,
you've just given me an idea. I'm gonna be with my daughter in London, who's 20. She's 24, so age appropriate, and
yes, yeah,
you know,
quite.
might see what I could do there. Because, but and on the topic of soccer, we have a question from Ryan Youngblood, who is a Detroit Gooner. He's also the Detroit Gooner, and Detroit, home of the Arsenal Detroit Supporters Club that watches Arsenal at McShane's Irish pub. He asks, Bukayo Saka embodies a local boy fairy tale, from Hale End to making the first team, and then the highs and lows of playing for England. How do you approach narrating a story about someone who is already so beloved by his fans and viewers?
Yeah, it's interesting that, Mike, because in a way, I don't have to approach it because it is what it is. The story tells itself. All I think I have to be is aware of it, so that in those moments you reflect it. You know, so when he walks up for that penalty, I don't need to tell anybody that he missed one for England 3 months ago, and it's a kind of given. And so it's just appreciating together with the audience what he does in the aftermath of it. It's almost not that I'm envisioning, it's almost sort of winking at the audience and saying, you know, and I know, you know, we all understand what's going on here.
Well, and that sort of subtlety, you know, not to be negative about other people, but like in American sports commentary, that sort of subtlety is a little more rare. You know, that relationship where, you know, we know what the viewer does and doesn't know, and I'm not going to, you know, mansplain or commentator-splain to these viewers and insult their intelligence. And that's kind of a respect and an inside knowledge that the authenticity of English commentators in the world football game, I think, really adds.
Well, that's nice of you to say. I think honestly, it comes, you know, if you're lucky as I am to commentate on largely the biggest clubs, I think sometimes it's a problem, because I go into Arsenal against Liverpool, say, and I think there's actually nothing I can tell my audience about this game that they don't already know. You know, if you get to do an FA Cup tie involving Atkinson Stanley, who are they? Then it's your job to explain who they are, you know, because a lot of the audience won't know.
A glass of milk next to you.
Exactly. And sometimes I miss that. And actually this weekend, and I'm sure you'll all be tuning in for it in your millions, this weekend, the main game on NBC at 5:30 British time, so 12:30 Saturday lunchtime, is Burnley against Fulham. Okay, so that is a very important game, actually, for both of the clubs involved, either side of the relegation line. But it's also a non-glamour game, and it might involve some commentator splaining, you know, and I'm quite looking forward to that, because, you know, I might think, you know, the audience might not know all of these Burnley players, and it's been my job this week to learn them a bit and pass on that information. But when you do Arsenal,
found something to look forward to in going to Burnley. I've been to Burnley and Turf Moor, and you managed to find the needle in the haystack that actually provides you anticipation.
Well, do you know what? It's
not the most character-filled city I've ever been to.
Burnley's an interesting place. But what I would say to you is that historically, this is giving away all my stats ahead of the weekend, but Fulham have a remarkably bad record at Burnley. Fulham have failed to win on their last 32 visits to Burnley. And that is the second longest current sequence of its kind in English football.
Wow.
And the longest is Fulham's away record at Arsenal, which is 33 without a win. So there you are. I got Arsenal into it.
Have we beat them already at home this year? I don't remember.
No, you won.
No, we beat them away. I should know that. I was there. But yeah, when you hear that on the broadcast, now everyone has to tune in at the 12:30 Eastern broadcast to kind of prepare for our 3 p.m. Eastern. But when you hear that, you will the little wink, wink from Peter that he's talking to Arsenal America there. So I just want to take a quick moment to thank you, those who are catching us live. Say hello to anybody that is listening to us on demand. And a quick message from our sponsor, which is us, Arsenal America. This is the Arsenal Americast, the first one. It's a member exclusive benefit of Arsenal America, although this particular episode is open to everybody. If you are not a member of Arsenal America already and you'd like to participate in future Americast episodes, get a nice swag pack with a scarf, a koozie, and pins and bags and all of that. If you want to participate in the giveaways that we do each month, discounts both domestically and over in North London, just go to arsenalamerica.com, or you can scan the QR code at the top left and join the ranks of memberships. Important note, though, memberships will close for the 2025-26 season on New Year's. So the deadline to sign up for this season is December 31st, and will begin probably in April, opening up membership for the following year. Now, Peter, what would you expect to pay for this kind of content and all those benefits? Like between $2,000 and $4,000? I mean, is that
at least probably twice that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean that we're still trying to get one person to pay that, but no, the cost is $30 for the whole season. That breaks down to 8.2 cents a day, and unfortunately, unlike the teams that Arsenal try to do transfer business with, we do not accept payment in installments. But Arsenal, and more specifically Sky Sports, sent you to Wolverhampton on Monday for a scouting mission of our Saturday opponent. I don't know how poor of a football team you have to be to lose 4-1 to Manchester United of all clubs. And again, that's me saying that, not you. But what can you tell us about what we're facing on Saturday and the opponent from what you saw just a few days back?
I don't think I'm being overly controversial if I say, Mike, that it will be quite a big surprise if Arsenal don't win that game. I know how football fandom works. And if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be thinking, oh, this can only go wrong, because that's how fans think.
Everything to lose.
Everything to lose, because you're the best team and they're the worst team. And I must say, I've got a lot of time for the guy who's got in there as coach, Rob Edwards, who did great things with Luton Town, got them into the Premier League when they had no right to be there. He's a thoroughly decent guy. Wolves is his team, which is why he left Middlesbrough. A very good job in the Championship to give it a crack. But you start a season as a smaller club or a club that's looking to cling on. You need to win 10 out of 38 games probably to have a chance to stay up. They've now got to win 10 out of 23. And that is a very, very tall order.
Is Derby City in their sights right now?
So, well, that's their net. I mean, we spent the whole of last season, didn't we, talking about whether Southampton were going to avoid being the worst team in history, and now that conversation relates itself to Wolves, who I'm always very wary about talking about players, because I've never been one, and it's not for me to have an opinion really, but I think it's the opinion of those who have played the game at the top level that simply they don't have a roster of players, enough of whom are of Premier League standard, and it shows in their results. It's like every game now is like a underdog cup tie game, where they're scrapping to sort of stay in it. And the other night against Manchester United, there was a moment of jeopardy because they scored a goal, and they hadn't scored. They had actually failed to score in their previous 5 games. So they're not scoring very often. They're leaking plenty of goals. And if Arsenal don't win that comfortably, it would be a big surprise to me. Having said which, of course, they'll go with that classic underdog away team mentality, and they'll line up their defence in front of the penalty area. And Arsenal are going to have to find a way of scoring the first goal. But if they get the first goal early, I would suggest the second goal might follow, and then maybe 1 or 2 after that. But you know, I don't want to talk down Wolves. It's a great and famous club, part of the fabric of English football and all of that. But it would be an extraordinary thing.
That was the club that Steve Bull played for, right? When they were a lower division club, but he was playing for England in the World Cup, which was so unusual at the time. I remember that from when I was living over there in '90.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Dr. Jeff Harper in Indianapolis. We get PhD professors from higher education institutions in our midst. This is the kind of audience that we gather. But he's from Fishers, Indiana, just outside Indianapolis, where the Indy Gooners watch right at Chatham Tap in Fishers. He says, you, Lee, and Graham really seem to enjoy each other during the broadcast. What's it like with those two off camera? Any fun stories to share? And just remember, like I told you before we went on the air, this is a family show, so please, family friendly.
Well, I'd love to give you some scandal and some real insight into how awful they are, but actually, we really do get on. We really do get on. And you've spoken to Lee often enough, Mike. Have you had Graham on as well? Have you had Graham on, or just Chelsea?
No, I have not had I mean, and I would, even though he's Chelsea, I would love to speak to Graham someday.
I mean, it is. I'm sure a lot of people who are familiar with your work and indeed with NBC's coverage will have seen the great.
No one's familiar with my work, Peter.
Of course they are, Mike. Of course they are. They will have seen the YouTube clips of Lasso and Dixon fighting each other and kicking pieces out of each other when they played for Arsenal and Chelsea, and they're two quite different people, but they get on very, very well now. We've got the lovely thing about working for NBC is that we have a fabulous team spirit, and everybody has each other's back, and we can have a giggle, but we take it, I hope, seriously when it's time to take it seriously. What you hear is what you get, and how it is. We don't particularly try, if you know what I mean. I mean, we try to do a good job, but what you hear is, I think, a natural coming together of all of us just doing our thing. And Lee and Graham, who have been there from the start, which I haven't, and my good friend John Champion hasn't either. They have been there from the very outset. And so they are part of the bones of NBC Premier League. And they're really proud of that. And they're right to be proud of it. And I think it's going to take a while for you to shake them off yet.
Well, we're not looking to shake them off, because that's, I mean, it's any combination of you and Graham, you and Lee is we know it's going to be great. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I had a few other things I wanted to talk to you about, but as I always do, I end up preparing way too many things for the amount of time that we have. And most important to me in this particular show is to make sure that we are providing some interaction, kind of a closeness between our supporters here in America, whether you get the chance to travel over there or whether you don't, bringing us closer to the team, to the sport, to the things that we enjoy is what this podcast is meant to be. So rather than me asking you questions that I think the answers to will be interesting, I'd like to make sure we're getting in the questions from our membership. And so if you have any questions and you're in the chat, you can go ahead and submit those, but we have a lot of pre-submitted questions. So we're just going to go rapid fire on some of those. And if we have time at the end, I'll go back. So we're going to call these Arsenal America questions. We have to brand everything. So Sagar Ravrain reached out to us. He's originally from India, but he now lives in Texas by the home of the Austin Gooners, who watch Arsenal at the Tavern. He wants to first tell you he's a massive Arsenal fan and enjoyer of your commentary. Says your narration of Martinelli's first-minute goal at Liverpool at Emirates in October 2022 is his favorite moment. I think that's the same game from the Saka penalty, actually.
Yeah.
Is his favorite moment of all time. He had a three-parter, but for reasons of time, I'll pick one, which is, if not football, which other sport or sports would you pick to be on the commentary panel?
Well, if he retains his Indianness as well as his Americanness, then he'll be pleased to know that I'm a cricket lover, and I know that goes down like a lead balloon in America on the whole, where cricket is not a thing.
Although I wish it was bigger. I like it.
Yeah, But I love the great English game of cricket, or if I should defer and say the great Indian game of cricket as well. And so during the English summer, cricket is my thing, and I follow the English cricket team and my county team, which is Kent, down in the southeast corner of England, famous cricket county. And back in the day, a million years ago, when I was starting out in local radio, I did do some cricket commentary. But I'm glad I don't do that professionally, because it remains a hobby and not a job. Cricket's a beautiful, beautiful game. I wish the Americans got it, because it's a beautiful game.
The very day of one of our friendlies in Denver, the year, frankly, that Josh and Stan Kroenke were getting a lot of, I mean, there was a "We Care, Do You" thing, and I ended up interviewing him that night, which was a surreal experience. But that morning, I'll never forget, I was following the World Cup, because that was England, Australia, with the most, I mean, that would have been perfect for you to be called.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
there's not, I gather there's not a tremendous amount of drama in cricket.
Well,
there can be, I'm sure, but
yeah.
You don't have to understand the game to realize how incredible that was. So
yeah, it was great.
That was, I guess, July of 2019. But Tim Whitome from Leavenworth, Washington, which is not where the prison is. That's in Kansas, but Leavenworth, Washington, about 2 hours east of Seattle, the home of the Cascadia Gooners, has my favorite question of them all. He says, "Peter, I love it when you're on the commenting broadcast for Arsenal, and the soaring poetry matches my mood. I really get depressed when we lose, and you are defining our opponent with the same soaring poetry. As with all music, I guess, the effect is mesmerizing until it isn't. Context is all. Still wonderful, though. Thank you." So what's your answer to that great question?
Well, what he does, he identifies the commentator's ultimate dilemma, actually, Mike. So people are very nice in this bubble we're in now, because sometimes I've said good things around exciting Arsenal moments. But there's a realization, when Saka scored that penalty against Liverpool, the Liverpool fans weren't enjoying it, and so when you're somebody's favorite, you're somebody else's enemy, because you're living the moment of joy. And I suppose, part of the job is to articulate and feel the way the fans are feeling in a given moment. And it's convenient and fairly obvious to choose to go with the happy fans. But in theory, you could choose to ride the choppy wave of the loser. Saka could step up and you could go, "Oh, Liverpool have fallen behind here. Isn't it dreadful? This all gone horribly wrong. A day which carried so much promise has fallen apart," and all that. And then you would be sympathizing and empathizing with them, and irritating the Arsenal fans who are saying, "Hey, what about this? This is our moment." Yeah. And so your correspondent absolutely nails it when he says how irritated and upset he probably becomes when I have to commentate on a goal against Arsenal. There aren't many of those. I doubt it's
aimed at you, though.
No. But he's right. He's right. I think we're all fans, and we all know what that's like. You hear the other team scores, you're sitting at home watching it on your television, and the commentator's going wild, and you're saying, "Shut up!" I'm not interested in all your happiness now.
Because we're looking to deflect from our team's failures and blame it on somebody else. It's just projection, exactly. Peter. That's really all it is.
We all do it.
So Katie Evans, who is part of the branch leadership in Des Moines, Iowa. When we talk about Miami to Seattle and Maine to San Diego, Des Moines, Iowa is pretty much the right in the middle. And they watch the games at the Royal Mile Pub. Asks, how do you balance providing fair commentary with your own personal opinions and feelings?
That's Katie, is a very easy one to answer. I don't bring my opinions and feelings to work. I absolutely don't. And some commentators differ with me over this, and I absolutely respect their position. But I think I've said this to you before, Mike, is absolutely my opinion that it is not for me to have an opinion. I sit next to a guy, Lee Dixon, for instance, Graham Musso sometimes as well. Lee Dixon's played 700 games for Arsenal. So is it not an impertinence for me? I mean, regardless of whether it's Arsenal or not, if he played them for Manchester City or Manchester United, whatever, his job is to interpret, to have the opinion, and to offer an opinion which is credible and is based on experience. I'm not one of these people who says if you haven't played the game you can't possibly have an opinion. Of course you can, we all do, and I have one, but my job is to answer the questions why, what, who, the factual questions, and his job is to be interpretive and answer the questions how and why, and to opine. So I think it's easier if I just stay in my lane and let him
graciously said. I was watching back the first conversation that you and I'd ever had, and you know, you were adamant that even the co-commentators, the pundits, the ex-players, you know, generally when they're in the moment, don't bring their personal opinions into it. I have to respectfully disagree when it comes to people like Gary Neville and others. But and again, that's me saying that, not you. But I'm sure it's an interesting concept when you have players who are so connected to one club, and I tend to find that Alan Smith, Lee Dixon, the guys who have played so many years for the Arsenal do a better job of being independent, to the point where sometimes they get a bad rap for actually going overcompensating in that. And I don't see some of them taking the same level of care not to do that. But
that's interesting, Mike. May I challenge you on that?
Please.
You know, I think it's really interesting, because when you have people saying to pundits, whatever their club of origin was, you're biased, the answer, generally speaking, if I was them, would be, no, I'm not, you are. So what I would say, and so you should be, because you're a fan. That's your job, is to be biased. You are partisan. And I would say, having worked with Lee Dixon, you're absolutely right. He does not come over as an Arsenal man particularly. I mean, he admits to his Arsenalness, and he is inclined towards wanting Arsenal to win, but that does not affect the way he analyzes the game.
Right. And 50-50 challenge, he's not coming up with some crazy opinion that's clearly one-sided because of his allegiances.
No, but you are predisposed to accept that of him, because you are rightly, and absolutely rightly, of an Arsenal mind. And so you are unlikely to be offended by the way he deals with it. And I would say to you, you clearly disagree, that in terms of Manchester United, Gary Neville is exactly the same. It's just that you are predisposed to assume that Gary Neville is liable to put in a two-footed tackle on Arsenal. I'm saying to you that I don't think he's just as likely to do that to Manchester United as he is to Liverpool, as he is to Arsenal, as he is, and in fact, he's a very harsh critic of his own club at the moment. And which you might say it's easy to be, but the same is true of Carragher on Liverpool. In fact, he is falling out with Liverpool quite a lot at the moment, because he's very strong on the whole Salah issue. And so, actually, I get where you're coming from. I don't argue with you at all, but I think biased fans, and fans are rightly biased, that's not being pejorative, biased fans are predisposed to assume that a player who was their enemy in his playing day is still going to be their enemy now. And so there's a sort of supposition that he's ganging up against you. And I think if you were able to get your mindset where his is, you would see that that's possibly not the case. But we'll never agree on that. And that's the nature.
And everybody sees things through a tribal lens these days, way more than even 10 or 15 years ago. I'd be interested in those that are viewing, let us know your comments on that. But it's a great debate to have.
Yes. Yeah.
Richard Arundel, who runs the growing Naperville Gooners outside of Chicago. Check them out if you're in the suburbs. Can't make it into the city. Everyone knows about the commentator curse. So what is the worst thing you have said and lived to regret? And what perhaps do you wish you would have said but haven't?
Yeah,
you can pass, by the way, if you.
I can't. No, the thing is, But by appearing to pass, I'm seemingly saying I've never got anything wrong. I get 3 things wrong at least every match I broadcast on, and the wrong name or the wrong whatever. But so I make plenty of mistakes. But what I can't remember particularly is an occasion where I've said, "Oh, there's no way they're going to let in a goal now," and then they do let in a goal. So what we consider to be the commentator's curse. I can't remember an example of that happening to me. It probably has happened.
Well, if we lose to Wolves, I think these clips are going to end up being an example.
Correct. Okay, well, you can if you lose to Wolves, you can blame me. But believe you me, I've made so many mistakes. I just don't think I happen to have sort of got myself into a particular tangle in terms of assuming or appearing to assume what's going to happen next and get it wrong.
Yeah, well, and out of respect for your time, because we're wrapping up in the next minute or two, just one follow-up from Ryan in Detroit. And my apologies to those for whom we did not have time for the questions. We got a lot of really good questions in just this morning, shortly before the show. And, for future shows, if you want your question highlighted, the best thing to do is to send it in early, because then I can get it into the running order a little bit easier. But a follow-up from Ryan to that last question is there a goal or match that you didn't commentate on that you wish you could go back and commentate on? I've got a few that I can think of, but I'm interested in your answer.
The very easy answer to that question for me, because it dodges all club partisanship and so on, is obviously the 1966 World Cup final.
Oh, okay.
I would love to have a microphone in my hand when England win the World Cup. And as someone who was born in 1967 and therefore hasn't had it in his lifetime, that hunger for that moment is ever greater. But I would never have done it as well as Kenneth Wolstenholme did. So there you are. Perhaps it's as well that I was -1 at the time.
Well, I will hope to. You're doing the World Cup this next summer?
Well, I'm doing it for the World Feed, yeah.
Okay, so I will hope that we can have a drink in Meadowlands, New Jersey, after England brings home World Cup 2026.
That would be great.
I do want it to come home, despite being from America. I am realistic about our football team.
Well, you've got a chance. Who have you got? Australia. You can beat Australia. You can beat. Who's the other one? Paraguay? No. Can't remember. Anyway,
I know who England's opponents are. I can't even remember now who, other than Australia in Seattle. I can't remember. Yeah. But I would have thought that you would have gladly taken Bill Leslie's place.
Wow. Do not scratch your eyes. Yeah.
TV or this one. Again, we wouldn't change a thing about Roger Moore's. Brian Moore, yeah. Well, Brian Moore would have probably traded with Roger Moore and been 007.
I think Roger Moore would have traded with Brian Moore. I don't think Roger Moore ever spoke a better line than "It's up for grabs now."
Yes. Well, apologies again to Nicola from Los Angeles, to Kara from Milton, Massachusetts, for not being able to get to those questions. But I just wanted to kind of say once again to the folks tuning in before we say goodbye, you are watching the debut episode of the Arsenal Americast, a member exclusive benefit of Arsenal America. If you want to join Arsenal America, you've got 3 weeks left in this year's membership to join. Go to arsenalamerica.com, click on join, or follow the QR code in the upper left. There'll be future Arsenal America episodes that you have to be a member to be able to participate in. There's a swag pack going out to you that has some great items in it, giveaways, discounts, and more. And membership does close on December 31st. So that is all that we have the time for today. A massive thank you, Peter, to you, not only epitomizing the majesty and truly the poetry of the beautiful game in such an engaging way, but you're the exact same person when the mics are turned off. Generous, welcoming, engaging, and one of the truly good people in football games. So I can't thank you enough for helping us kick off this brand new endeavor and coming into our homes on Thursdays instead of only on Saturdays.
Thank you, Mike. Real pleasure. It's always such fun talking with you. So thank you. Really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. Hope we can do it again, maybe next season. And tell Lee I said hello if you happen to remember. And I guess the next time we'll see you on an Arsenal game, given the game times, is probably going to be Bournemouth after the new year. That's the 5:30 p.m. game on January 3rd. So if that's
over Christmas. There might be one over Christmas, I think, when the kickoffs are all over the place. But yeah,
I hope so. Well, I'll be paying attention to that. So. Thanks again, Peter. Once again, this has been the debut episode of the Arsenal Americast. Our next show in January, we'll have another very special guest. Please follow us on social media, and we will provide more information about that. And any final words, Peter?
Good luck to the Gooners.
Thank you very much.
This has been the Arsenal Americast. Join us every month for this, one of the many exclusive benefits of Arsenal America membership. To learn more about Arsenal America and to join, go to www.arsenalamerica.com and watch your email and our socials for details about next month's special guest.